Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 514. Thank you for joining us for Black Entrepreneur Experience. This is where we shine the light on the most successful Black entrepreneurs in the world. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards, and I am so honored to have with us today Yelitsa, and she is the founder and CEO of Healthy Roots Dolls. It's a toy company that creates Black dolls and storybooks that teaches natural hair care to young girls of color. Hi, Yelitsa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am so perfect. You know what? Your bio is very extensive, and I haven't even touched the surface. So why don't you fill in with our audience? What would you like us to know about your company and yourself?
Awesome. My name is Yelitsa Jean Charles, and I'm the CEO and founder of Healthy Roots Dolls. I graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design and studied illustration with a concentration in gender, race, and sexuality. I also took business classes at the Brown University, which was just up the street. I am the child of Haitian immigrants, so I am Haitian American, and I'm incredibly passionate about diversity in children's media and product.
You know what? We're going to kind of reverse this interview. We're going to get into some fun facts here. So why don't you tell us, this is called our lightning round fun facts. We're going to kind of break the ice here. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give us very quick answers. Are you ready for the fun facts lightning round?
I'm ready.
The last movie you saw?
Black Panther, and that's the movie everyone needs to see.
You relaxed doing what?
I relax doing yoga.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Beyonce.
Your favorite dance song?
Grown Woman by Beyonce.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Sour Patch Kids.
Is that a food?
Yeah. Listen, when you're this stressed, candy is a release.
Oh, don't even go there. And your favorite month?
March.
Wonderful. We're in March. Love, love, love March. That's my birthday month. We are like on the same wavelength here.
It's the transition between winter to spring. It's the best month.
See there. Love it. Love it. Let's talk about your why. Why did you start Healthy Roots?
I started Healthy Roots because I was in a class studying children's products, and I realized, looking at the statistics and based on my own experience growing up, that there are not a lot of products for children of color out there. In 2014, less than 8% of main characters in children's books were of color, but now over 50% of children in the U.S. are of color. They're a growing demographic and they need to be represented. And I also looked into the impact that toys have on children as social teaching tools, particularly dolls. And I came across the Mamie Clark doll test, which was used the Brown versus the Board of Education trial, and how racial bias can develop in children in young ages. And just all these studies seeing that the need for representation and the impact that it can have on children positively, I realized that this is an opportunity here to make sure that young girls that come after me don't feel the same way that I did growing up about being Black and realizing that Black is beautiful.
We don't want to assume our audience know about the test. Tell us about that test.
The Mamie Clark doll is a test, and it's been repeated several times since then, where they place a brown baby doll and a Black baby doll in front of Black and white children, and they ask them to ascribe either negative or positive attributes to the doll. And as crummy as it sounds, overwhelmingly both Black and white children ascribed the negative attributes to the Black doll and the positive attributes to the white doll. And they've done this as recently as 2012, I think. There's probably another one out there that's been done recently.
And you know what, Yelitsa, you are so correct about that. I think 2020 or 60 Minutes or What Would Your Kids Do? It's a new series, and they were showing the impact even with social media and Black Girls Magic and everything that is so positive about Black people. And I was sharing this with another person prior to our call that the society and culture, they have done such a job with, it's almost like an onion, with just this layer and layer of negativity about Black. It's going to take a lot of undoing, but it is something that is truly necessary. Tell us about your experience. What got you into this? You described the why, but you have a very profound story that I want you to share. Your mom giving you a doll for Christmas. Tell us about that.
Oh, goodness. My mom is probably sick of this story. She did her best. Let's just preface with that. When I was growing up, I remember one Christmas, my parents got me a black Barbie. You would always assume that when a kid gets a toy that they would be so excited they're ripping the paper off. I didn't do that. I opened the doll and I instantly started crying because to me and what I had been taught through what I'd seen in media and just in general through our society, I didn't think she was beautiful. I didn't think that this was the pretty doll. I didn't think it was the good one. I wanted the blonde one with the blue eyes and the pink dress because that's the one that I was told is the perfect doll.
How did this transformation happen for you, Yelitsa, where you've embraced your Blackness?
I attribute it to college. I always grew up in predominantly white spaces. I picked up early in order to survive, you have to assimilate. And it's really terrible that Black children can't just be themselves. I remember my parents telling me, we've all heard, you have to be twice as good to get half as much. You have to be smarter. You have to make sure you smell extra nice. You have to make sure your clothes are extra clean because they don't expect you to be any of those things. I went throughout middle school and high school trying so hard to get people's approval. I used to straighten my hair. I used to dress a certain way. I actively disassociated with anything that was considered quote unquote Black because I saw how people treated the other Black students and I didn't want to get treated like that. I got to college and I realized, wow, I have been denied like my experience my whole life and there's nothing wrong with being Black and I should be allowed to embrace that as thoroughly as I want to. And it really took being around other Black students and having these conversations and unpacking this and like seeing someone else cut off all her hair. My friend Tiara cut off all her hair. And I was like, oh my goodness, girl, what are you doing? And she's like, I've never seen my natural hair like just growing out of my head the way it does. And it hit me. I was like, I haven't either. It started there. It influenced my art. I started learning more about Black female artists, reading tons of literature. Kara Walker is one of my biggest inspirations. And my experience with going natural and talking about Blackness in my work ultimately just resulted in my exploration of race and gender in creating a physical product.
During this time in college, when you said going natural at this point, did you wear chemicals in your hair and then you ended up not, and did you do a cut?
That's one of the things that's different about my story. I actually never had a perm and my parents actively denied me a perm my entire life. I wore a lot of braids growing up, cornrows. My mother is she's very talented with her hands. She used to braid like hearts and stars into my hair. And when I entered like high school, I didn't want to wear braids anymore because I was like, oh, that's what like Black girls, I don't want to look like that, even though there's nothing wrong with it. I started getting Dominican blowouts and that was really damaging for my hair. I transitioned out of all the heat damage by just starting to not straighten my hair. I put down the blow dryer, I put down the flat iron, and I just let my hair do its thing. I embraced coconut oil as everyone else did and just let it do its thing.
Now that's pretty amazing about the dolls going to be a toy manufacturer. Do you know how many African Americans or individuals in the Black diasporas are actually toy manufacturers?
I don't know that specific number, but there's a growing number of people entering the space of creating products for children of color.
Tell us about that journey. How do you get started to even go into that industry?
I was very fortunate because my school has really great connections to Hasbro, so I had a lot of advisors there. One of my strengths is recognizing what I don't know and then figuring out who does know something and then asking them. I would join a lot of Facebook groups, LinkedIn, make connections with people on LinkedIn and start looking at, okay, where do I start this process? Talking to other toy designers, people who do 3D renderings, and then just going from there. You really have to start at the bottom, which is like the design, and then work your way up through the knowledge ladder of connecting with people who've gone through the entire process.
Yelitsa, what was that aha moment that you knew your business was going to be successful and you were on to something?
I would have to say that it started, actually really started when I made a doll in a class at RISD. I redesigned Rapunzel and I turned her into a little brown girl with long curly hair, like kinky curly hair, because I wanted to show that Black girls could also be princesses too. People were like, this looks like a doll. And it hit me. And I was like, this kind of does look like a doll. I went on Facebook and I just asked people like, did you have Black dolls when you were growing up? did you wish you had? And like, what impact do you think dolls have on children? And it just turned into this comment thread with like over 100 comments of just all these Black women talking about their hair and their experiences. And I was like, this is a thing. There is a need here. And that was my big aha moment. I still have screenshots from that comment thread.
How did you finance your business and your dream?
Healthy Roots Dolls, like most startups, was bootstrapped. I got a very small check as a grant from RISD and Brown University. I built up my network. I just went for Kickstarter. I was like, this is going to be the way that we're financed.
Did you do any training on, it's an art to doing those Kickstarter campaigns or any kind of peer-to-peer fundraising? What advice did you learn from that? What was the takeaway?
I think I talked to a couple of people who had done Kickstarter before, but I realized as I was starting the company that I had already been preparing for a Kickstarter. So the thing that people don't realize is like, you don't just launch those campaigns. So many people are like, oh, I'm just going to do a Kickstarter. They make a video and then they drop it and they assume that that's going to lead to them reaching their goal. And it's not like that at all. It has to be incredibly strategic. You have to know where your money's coming from before you even have it. And that's one of the biggest things someone else told me. For 9 months before we even launched the Kickstarter, we were building up our email list organically, going to events, emailing people who could potentially be interested in it, reaching out to writers, making the necessary connections to help us spread our network, having our friends help us boost our signal when the campaign launched. Because if you don't make most of your money on the first day, the odds of your campaign being successful diminishes. It was a lot of planning in advance of like a strategic marketing strategy. And we also did it without spending any money.
That was brilliant. How would you personally define success?
For me, this is what I always tell people. Me seeing success is one day seeing a little girl with one of our dolls on the bus and me turning to someone and be like, I made that. And then being like, no, you didn't. And me being like, whatever. I did it. I know I did it. Reaching as many girls as possible. And like every time I get an email with a photo where parents like, look at how happy she looks. We love Zoe. And I'm like, this is why I do this work.
And you know, that's interesting. I think that's a great marker. And I was at an entrepreneur meeting this past Saturday. And this gentleman, I had this just a jacket on, and he indicated, now whether he was right or wrong, I don't know. And he was just like, I did that logo design there, and the jacket came from San Francisco, and where he told me, he knew exactly where I had purchased it from. So I had to believe that he was correct, but that's a great goal for you to shoot for.
Yeah, one day.
It's going to happen soon, sooner than later. Tell us, Yelitsa, what is a daily or weekly habit that you do consistently that has given you the greatest success?
Daily habit for me, I went to an office supply store and I bought these giant notepads and sticky pads because at the last job that I adopted this practice of writing down my task from high priority to low priority. Also considering like, okay, which task can I get done the fastest versus which ones I need to break up over time. And doing that every morning has helped me do so much work because instead of being in my head and like thinking about all the things, I'm writing it down and I'm like giving myself the time and space to execute on it.
What is the biggest challenge being an entrepreneur?
There aren't enough hours in the day. There are not enough hours in the day. There's always something else to get done. There's always someone else you need to talk to. It's a constant chase, but it's worth it.
Talk about your team. How large is your team?
We have a really great core team. It's about 8 people. I also work with contractors, and we're all people who clearly understand our goal, our target market, and the work that we want to do for young girls of color.
Tell us about your biggest success to date, Yelitsa.
My biggest success to date. The entrepreneur in me would be like, oh, I was featured on Founders to Watch by Essence magazine. But for me, it was my mom thinking that she saw me on TV, because that means that she at least acknowledges that I'm like TV worthy and like that my business is real.
That is so huge. So talk to us about your journey you had shared with us. We talked a little bit prior to our interview, but I just want to give our audience kind of a backtrack of that story. You're supposed to be a doctor. Is that correct?
So when you are the child of Haitian parents, there are only 3 careers you are allowed to have. You could either be a doctor, a lawyer, or if you're a girl, a nurse. That's the only reason why they came in this country. If you're not one of those, they have no idea what you are. And then I went to art school, and then my parents were like, wow, I just wasted my money. Yeah.
That is a wonderful story. It reminds me of this entrepreneur. She's a big time, gosh, I can't even think of her name now, but she's an internet marketer, and she has a similar story, and she's a dentist. She is now a part-time dentist. She does root canals, and she makes more money as an internet marketer than she does as a dentist. And so she said the only reason she stays as a dentist, she remains a dentist, is because her dad is like, what do I tell people you do? And so dentistry is easiest. So I do understand that. Right? So Yelitsa, tell us, what is one valuable lesson you wish you knew prior to starting your business?
I would have to say that everything can't be perfect. Sometimes things just need to get done. And if you're constantly waiting until exactly the way you envisioned it, you're going to be waiting forever. You need to just put things out there, break things, fix them. When you make a mistake, fix it, and then do it again. And that's how you get to your finished product. But you can never launch if you don't start. So just start.
And your product as a creator, are you outsourcing that? Is it out of the country, or are you having your dolls made in the USA?
I designed the doll myself, and I worked with other people to get her manufacturing ready. And so we do mass produce on a large scale. These are not being made by my hands. They're being made with really professional, high quality manufacturers.
So are they in the USA or out of the country?
It's out of the country.
And who's your top 2 influencers in life, and what lessons did they teach you?
I know this is so overrated, but I always say Beyonce and Arlen Hamilton, who is our investor from Backstage Capital. So I say Beyonce because she is so in control of her brand. Just in the fact that, like, you don't know anything about Beyonce unless Beyonce says it. She doesn't do any more interviews. She's so in control of her image, and she's really defined what it means to be a brand in my eyes. She's redefined so much for social media usage, particularly, and like launching projects. And then Arlen Hamilton, because we both kind of started at the same time. She was just becoming a VC, and she'd written this article on Medium about how white male VCs are overlooking opportunities to fund amazing companies from minority founders. And we just both really hustle, and watching her hustle has inspired mine.
Thank you for sharing that. I just had a conversation with a 17-year-old entrepreneur, and she was talking to me about the gap in terms of African Americans, the African diasporas, Blacks, in terms of venture capitalists and funding. That's a whole nother story, because we started talking about the income gap and the funding gap, and the one statistic that I'm sure my listeners probably tired of hearing, but in terms of entrepreneurship, when an African American or someone Black start a business, if they make $58,000 a year, to our counterparts will make $256,000 a year. That is a huge gap. So what can we do to inspire more individuals that look just like us to become entrepreneurs?
Give them the resources and give them the space. It's hard to do this work if you don't know what to do or how to do it, and you don't have the community support. I know that if I didn't have the support network that I have, Healthy Roots would have never gotten off the ground. And we have to look at where people are going and not where they're at in terms of like the opportunity that's in front of them.
What advice would you give in terms of how do you get that community support?
You have to share your story. I think it goes back to what I said about not being afraid to launch. You got to put things out there. Making sure that you're not thinking about what you want to do, how it impacts others, and effectively finding that audience and speaking to them. That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't do, is they just put a product out there. They think that they have a great idea, but they haven't validated it. You need to validate what you're working on before you invest all this time and energy into it. And you can't question whether or not a community is supporting you if you're talking to the wrong community.
And we just want to clarify, when we say community, that's your fan base, your family base, your cheerleaders, however you want to define it, whether it's your Facebook, right?
Cheerleaders, customers, yep, all of that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we don't want them to just think in terms of just like their own little me, my, four, and no more.
Yeah.
You have to go outside and expand within the community, within the space. Talk to a younger you. Yelitsa, what do you tell her?
Ooh, what do I tell her? Leave your hair alone. It's hard because there's so many things that you want to tell yourself before you know them. And I think the first thing is I would tell myself not to put so much pressure on myself because I am a perfectionist, and recognizing that like because you're capable, things will get done and things will be great just because you're creating it. And it doesn't have to be Beyonce level to be amazing.
And you know what? I'm going to kind of step back. I so love what you said about Beyonce, and it's not overrated. I don't think I've ever had anyone say Beyonce was their top influencer, and I appreciate what you said. And she is Queen Bee, and she a master in terms of her message and her brand. And I didn't want to overlook that. And that is so powerful when you can, like you said, no story. She tells her story and she tells it the way she wants it to be told. And that's a huge takeaway. Thanks so much for sharing that. That is so profound.
Yeah.
You know what? If someone wrote a book about you today, what would they learn about you that they don't know?
I keep it incredibly humble and incredibly simple. I like to be honest with people. I know that social media, like in my generation, we talk so much about social media and how it can lead you to believe that people's lives are perfect. And I try to be as honest as possible. I share my selfies, but I also share like the struggles and letting people know that you are not the only person who experiences this. It's not wrong to feel this way. Entrepreneurship is really hard.
What book would you recommend, Yelitsa, and why?
I am a bit of an emotional person. I would probably recommend anything by Rupi Kaur, Milk and Honey. I know that's probably really corny to some people, but it's great to not do business all day. And that's one of the things that I read to like come back into myself and reconnect with the world.
Let's shift gears. What is the worst moment in business? And tell us the takeaway. Tell us the story and the takeaway.
One of the worst moments is probably having to let someone go from your team. It's always really hard for me because my team is so small and we connect on such a personal level. And these are people that I've had working relationships with for some time, and they are so personally invested in the company. But sometimes people outgrow their role or you're going in a different direction. And as much as you would like to continue working with them, while they may be awesome, the company needs something else. That's probably one of the more difficult moments for me.
And how did you handle it?
Just by being an effective communicator. It's really important communication is so important. I know that Healthy Roots and the reason why our team works so well is because we've learned through trial and error how to effectively communicate and use technology to our advantage and letting people know exactly what's up.
Speaking of technology, Yelitsa, what is a technology tool or technology platform that is a must-have for you in managing your business day to day?
Google Drive, Asana, and Slack. If you are still emailing your team one-on-one, that is incredibly ineffective in my opinion. Slack is a live way to chat with people, send files to each other, check in and communicate very quickly and easily.
There's a organization that I'm involved in and I just got hooked up. I had heard about Slack, but I wasn't using it. I'm a new adopter of that. So, right?
Welcome to the crew.
Absolutely. So talk to us, Yelitsa, about your goals for your brand.
My goal is to help mothers and daughters bond over hair and learning to embrace their natural hair. I just want girls they have to look one way or the other, but know that there are so many options and that everything is so much fun to do with your hair and beautiful.
If you had to do it all over again, would you do the same business and the same industry?
Oh, absolutely. I would do the same exact thing. I think it's my sweet spot. I love hair care. I love beauty. I love children. What else could I possibly do?
And I think that's brilliant how you've married them all together in terms of your passion. And that's coming from a real place of authenticity, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Absolutely. So what milestone do you want to accomplish for your business over the next couple of years?
Our next big goal is to get into retail. And that's something that I hope happens in 2019.
And tell us something about your industry that we don't know that we should know.
Dolls are for everyone. Dolls know no gender. And all colors of dolls are for everyone. There just needs to be options for everyone first.
That's good. So what, if anything, Yelitsa, would make you stop?
I think the only thing that would make me stop working on Healthy Roots is if there wasn't an interest or demand for it. So long as people need it, I'm going to do it.
Talk about naming your business. Was that difficult, and how did you come up with the name of the business?
It was a little difficult because there's so many things relating to natural hair. There's like natural this, natural that. And I didn't want to necessarily do the same type of generic name. And I wanted it to relate back to my main goal, which is like helping children have strong identity with their Blackness and also their culture. Having literally healthy hair, healthy roots, and healthy roots to their culture across the diaspora, because we're so disconnected. And that's how I ultimately came to Healthy Roots. I had to decide, like, it sounds like food. As long as I tell the story, it works.
Healthy Roots, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what do you do when you hit a bump in the road, and how do you adjust and reset?
My favorite way to take breaks, my dirty pleasure, is eating hot Cheetos and drinking a Coke. I do that for like an hour. I don't let anybody talk to me. I don't look at any emails. I just take a second. And I think that's really, really important because sometimes I realize I'll go the whole day. I'll work from 8 to midnight. And I'm like, I haven't eaten today. I haven't done anything but worked. This is incredibly unhealthy. One of the things that I learned in school is like when something is not working, if you keep pushing it, you're just making it worse. You need to step away from the canvas so you can see the whole picture. Taking a break and realizing I am burning myself. I need to walk away and then come back after having conversation with somebody else or, asking a question.
So, Yelitsa, talk about the state that you launched your business, the city and state. Talk about it from a business perspective. And was that the best city and state to launch your business?
I think Providence, Rhode Island was the best place to start Healthy Roots because I was just surrounded by arts and culture. There's a whole toy manufacturer there and there was a growing ecosystem. So I was right in between, Rhode Island, Boston, and Providence. There are so many, like anyone that I wanted to talk to or like people that I could use for validation, Boston and New York. It was a pretty good trifecta.
So you hit the jackpot.
I did hit the jackpot. Like I had all the mentors I could possibly need. There was funding opportunities, there were accelerators, and then any events where there would be like Black creatives or naturalistas, I could go to New York for that.
Yelitsa, let's switch roles. If you conducted this interview, what is the one question that you wish I would have asked you? And I want you to answer that question.
I would ask the challenges about being a Black founder, like a Black female founder, a young Black female founder in the startup scene.
Absolutely.
Do I have to answer it now? It's really hard. Just now in my accelerator, it's like we're getting ready to go into the second week and we're starting to ask people about their backgrounds and people are like, oh, when did you graduate? Oh, how old are you? What? People are like realizing like I'm 23 and to them that it's crazy. And I've had so many conversations like because I've started on this company, I think when I was 20 and whenever my age, it was already an issue because I was a young woman of color and I was making a product for young women of color. And there's a barrier there for people who don't understand the need or the size of the market. Black people spend a lot of money on hair products. Black people have over 1 trillion in buying power. Like this is not a niche. And so then I would tell them my age and then I would tell them that I went to art school and they're like, oh, you're not serious. And I'm like, I'm dead serious. I can do this. I don't know why you don't think I can, but Arlen thinks I can. So yes, I can.
So do you think the challenge, I'm going to kind of delve into that. So is the challenge with you being Black, female, 23, all of the above, and with others in your cohort, what is the average age?
I think the issue is being an outlier in any capacity. And I think that I'm just the perfect combination of an outlier.
That's good.
I'm from the art world. I'm young. I'm a first-time business owner. I'm making toys. Whoa. I'm Black. So there's nothing to pinpoint. I'm not going to say that it's because they are discriminating against me. It's because they don't know what to do with me. They don't know what to do. They come from finance. They come from tech. They come from SaaS platforms. They don't know what to do with a doll. They don't play with dolls. What do I do with this girl who I think has a great idea? I don't know how to help her because I don't have the resources.
Very good. What is a parting piece of advice that you want to offer our audience?
There's so many things to say. Don't let people rush you. You have to work at your own pace, whatever that pace is, and trust your process. Trust your process. If I had gone off my path or done what everybody else said I was supposed to do, Healthy Roots would not be what it is. And it's great. So do what you got to do and do you.
And back to your question, how do you sustain, how do you stay focused and balanced being an outliner?
I own it. I often tweet about when you're in a predominantly white startup space and you take selfies because you're the only girl in the room. I own it. I'm very proud of being an outlier. And it's one of the things that makes me great. And I don't need to be like everybody else in order to be successful.
Where do you think you've gotten to be so young and brilliant and bold, your confidence? How do you teach that? How do you get that confidence?
I don't think it's something you teach. I think it's something you arrive at. So I used to get bullied in middle school and I changed schools. And when I changed schools and I moved to a different state, I told myself zero tolerance. And that's what I did. I had no tolerance. If someone said something to me, I had something to say back. I did that through high school, through college. If you don't like something, say something. And you are the person who defines how people treat you. That's how I navigated my entire life. I define the space around me. I decide who gets to be around me. I decide how people get to talk to me. And that has to come with being okay with owning that and knowing that not everyone's going to be for you and you are not for everyone. But the people that you are for are going to be the best people you know. You have to not care.
I love that. How do we connect with you? Someone's in our audience and they're interested in purchasing a DAO. They want to reach out to you. Why don't you share with our audience what is the best way, Yelitsa, for them to reach out, to support you, to find out more about your business, and give us all of your social media handles.
If you want to support Healthy Roots Dolls, you can head to our website at www.healthyrootsdolls.com. Support can be buying a t-shirt, buying a doll, signing up for our email list, sharing it with someone who does have a little girl that might benefit from it. Following us on Facebook, Healthy Roots Dolls, Instagram, Healthy Roots Dolls, Twitter, Roots Dolls, and just keeping in touch and spreading the word whenever you see us.
Yelitsa, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience. You have definitely dropped some amazing value bombs. We just want to say that we are so excited to be a part of your journey, a part of your family. Keep us posted on what you're doing and what you're up to and how we can support you.
I like that you said value bombs. I'm going to steal that. I really love the opportunity to share my story with as many people as possible because I think it's really important to show that people are doing this work and that there is room and that if you have an idea, you need to be doing it. If you want to personally support me, follow Healthy Roots or follow me on Twitter at the Yelitsa or on Instagram at Black Girl versus the World. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
It was my honor. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.